Welcome to Giant Cocktails, a podcast where two lifelong fans talk about the San Francisco Giants while drinking homemade cocktails. Now, here are your hosts, Ben and Matthew Henry.
Welcome to another episode of Giant Cocktails. I am your host, Ben Henry, alongside my brother, the tempered Matthew Henry. How you doing, Matthew?
Tempered? Like glass? I won't shatter?
I mean, that's one way to look at it. Sure, yeah. Yeah.
What's another way to look at it?
Expectations being tempered. You know, like they were super high.
Oh.
And now they're not as high.
Oh, mine are still high.
Oh, you mean for the Giants?
For the
Giants in 2025?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on the fence, you know, because it's spring training. I got to be positive, right? So I'm 50-50, but I'm just leaning ever so slightly. So I'm 50.1% positive, right? Because we have to be positive because it's spring training, and so I'm positive.
Okay. I'm like 90% positive, man.
I know. That's the role that you fulfill. I am the realist, and so I have to be over here. It's not have to be. I just am. It's just because I'm smart. I just can, I see reality as it is.
Man, all right.
But sometimes I get carried away with myself, Matthew.
Yes, you do.
Sometimes I get excited about a 20-year-old hitting a home run.
This is true.
You know, and then sometimes I have to have those expectations tempered.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
And so did possibly two young men have their expectations tempered a little bit this past week. Which brings me to my spring training related question.
Okay.
If a player does something good, now we established this a couple weeks ago. If a player does something good in spring training, that means they're going to have a good season. You know, like how Brett Wisely hit 2 home runs in February a couple seasons ago, and then since then it's been just, he's been lights out. Like that.
Yeah, like that. Okay.
What does it mean if they do something bad? And follow-up question, and what if it's the same player? Let me give you a couple examples.
Okay.
Like say a guy hits a home run in his first game as a major league invitee, but then strikes out 8 of the next 9 times he comes to bat.
Okay.
Or another guy gets anointed as the 5th starter for the team by everyone. Like everyone. And then immediately in his next start, he just poops all over himself.
Okay.
So what can we learn from this?
Well, as I recall, when we talked about if a player does something good, it means they're going to have a good season. That was in our episode about overreactions.
Oh.
So
okay.
I think, Ben, this might fall into that category as well. Maybe a little overreaction in terms of one thing that happened. Okay. I mean, Bryce Eldridge is probably still going to have a very nice career. And Landon Roupp could still be the 5th starter, even with his one bad outing. So I don't think you could buy too much into one thing. It will all be the way it's supposed to be. That's my Zen approach to this, Ben.
That just sounds like you're just wearing your rose-colored glasses again and just want to see things the way that you want to see them.
Well, but okay. Oh my God, Bryce Eldridge is no longer going to be the player we thought he was going to be. Cut him. And Landon Roupp, what do we need him for? We got this guy that sings like a bird, so let's just have him. I mean, that's not a logical way of looking at it either.
I don't know what you just said there, but what I did hear is that you agree that Hayden Birdsong should be the 5th starter on opening day, and I agree. Anyway, today is Sunday, March 9th, as we record this podcast. Your San Francisco Giants, whoa! This is like the second time, they were unbeaten.
They were.
They went 5-0-1, and they got rained out, which is lame. I hate that. It's spring training. They're in Arizona, for crying out loud. Rainouts? Anyway, to bring their record to 10-3-3, and Matthew, you had a trivia question.
I did.
About this not too long ago. The Giants could break the streak.
They could.
They are leading the Cactus League. You know what, Matthew? If they win the Cactus League, I'll take it. I'll take it.
I'm gonna have T-shirts printed. We're gonna
Yeah. We should just celebrate. There should be a
champagne in the locker in our living rooms.
Yeah. I'd be like, man, it's been so long. You know. And we didn't have anything like that for a long time for our whole lives. But I got to tell you, once I had it in 2010 and then I had it twice more, very quickly thereafter, it's like, and now I just need it. I need it. So I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll take it. Cactus League champions. Of course, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, right? There's still like half of spring training to go. But yeah, things are looking pretty good. Right?
Yes. Absolutely looking good.
I mean, winning the Cactus League can't be a bad thing.
Well, winning's never a bad thing. No.
Right. I get that it means nothing.
Right.
Right. But it doesn't mean that they're not going to be good in the regular season.
Right. And it's a fun little thing to root for while we're waiting for the regular season to start. Why not have them be Cactus League champions?
Right. And it's just another reason for us to be optimistic,
exactly.
Which is what we're going to be talking about today in this episode. Why things are looking really good. And things are looking really good for the Giants. But before we talk about that, we're going to talk about Bryce Eldridge and Landon Roupp. A dose of reality for two young players. And Giants fans. Including myself. I admit it. I got ahead of myself.
Yes, you did.
Okay? But it's been so long, Matthew. I was thinking about it. I was like, when was the last time the Giants brought up a position player that was like good? That was like, it was Crawford, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Bailey is there. Like, I don't think Bailey hasn't established it himself, but it could be Bailey, right? I'll give you that. If you're yelling out Patrick Bailey, fine. But in reality, it's been a long time. It's been Brandon Crawford, and then I think before that, I guess Pablo. We had a few.
Yeah, you had a few, but it's been a while.
Yeah, and then Pablo, and then Buster.
Yeah, and even kind of
the guy who is now
Logan Webb kind of snuck up on us. Like, I mean, it was kind of like he was okay, and then he was good, and he wasn't a top 100 prospect either. So
right, well, those are cool too. First of all, I did say position player, but those are also cool too. Like I like it when players come out of nowhere, like the Joe Panics.
Right.
Yeah. That's cool. But or the Logan Webbs, who didn't come out of nowhere, but was not a toply rated prospect. Those guys are very cool. But it's also cool when they tell you this guy's going to be great, and he is, like the thrill. And he comes in and he hits a home run in his first at-bat off of Nolan Ryan. Like, that stuff happens. It happened in my lifetime, and I'd like to see it again.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about that in a little bit, I guess.
But it's not going to happen this year because apparently Bryce Eldridge is going to go to Double-A, and we're never going to see him all year. And we're going to talk about that. But before we do, you have to ask us our trivia question.
Yes, let's do that so Ben can recuperate. All right. Today's trivia question is, Ben, since 2011, who is the only catcher to start on opening day that was not drafted by the Giants? And there was one. There was one catcher that started on opening day.
I know this one.
Okay.
Brett Wisely.
All right. Well, we'll see how wrong Ben is at the end of the episode.
Enough with the banter. Let's talk cocktails.
Yes, Bob, let's talk cocktails.
What are you drinking, Matthew?
Bob, I've created a cocktail. And, when you're creating cocktails, sometimes the name is the hardest thing. And so I'm calling this My Other Brother Ben.
What?
Yeah, my other brother Ben, not you.
Your other brother Ben. That would be my brother Ben?
By transitive property, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Just
All
checking.
Right. Okay. All right. So what's in my other brother Ben? It's got 2 ounces of London dry gin, 3/4 ounces of Earl Grey syrup, and I just did half a cup of sugar, half a cup of water, and a couple of Earl Grey tea bags. Brought that to just a simmer, and then took it off the heat and let it steep. That's all you gotta do. Then 3/4 ounces of fresh lime juice, 1/4 ounce of Luxardo Maraschino Liqueur, which adds a subtle cherry-almond note, and then 2 dashes of Lavender Bitters. You're going to shake all ingredients with ice until well chilled. Double strain into a coupe glass. Garnish with a lemon or lime twist. In my case, it was lime. And you're going to by expressing the oils over the drink. Bob, this is a really delicious, like floral noted drink with some, the depth of the Earl Grey, and it's aviation-esque, with the maraschino in there, but it's really good, and I'm really proud of it. So that's what I'm drinking today, Bob. My Other Brother Ben.
That's a tasty cocktail. What are you drinking, Ben?
Well, thank you for asking, Bob. That's very kind of you. Bob, as you know, I have been on a cocktail recipe exploration. And I'm continuing on that exploration, but rather than dive deeper into the cocktail that I made last week, I've decided to revert to a different kind of template as my starting point, using some of the same ingredients to try out something different and new. And I think, Bob, that this cocktail... Well, let's just discuss the ingredients. It has 1 3/4 ounce of mezcal.
Ooh.
Half an ounce of dry vermouth.
Ooh.
Half an ounce of elderflower liqueur.
Say what now?
And then a bar spoon of green chartreuse, primarily for the color.
Okay.
Combine all of those ingredients in a mixing glass with ice. Stir to your desired dilution. Matthew, that would probably be a lot of stirring. I think
I was going to say, you could stir that for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, you would want to stir this one for a while. Yeah. Then you are going to double strain that into a martini glass, and then you are going to choke it. Enjoy it. And that's what I'm drinking today, Bob. The spring cocktail number 3.
I'm not gonna lie. That cocktail sucked.
Actually, you know what, Bob? You know what? You're a baby. This is a man's cocktail. Or a woman's cocktail. This is an adult's cocktail.
I'm with Bob on this one, man.
Children. You're both children.
In your show notes, you actually wrote "stir to desired solution," and instead of desired dilution. And I don't think there is a desired solution. I don't know if there's a solution to this.
You don't think there's a solution to this?
No.
Look, if you don't like mezcal and you don't like dry vermouth, then you're not going to like this cocktail. What do you want from me? But those things do exist. People do like them.
Yeah, then you prettied it up with a little elderflower liqueur.
Prettied it up. I made it a little.
Bartender's ketchup in there to make it palatable.
Make it drinkable. This is basically a mezcal martini with some elderflower liqueur, and then it was crystal white clear. So I was like, let's see if we can make it green, and it didn't really help. The color was. But listen, this is not a horrible cocktail if you like those things. I understand a lot of people don't, but like I said, this is an exploration. This isn't the destination, okay? This is just a place we visited on our road trip.
Okay.
And that's what I'm drinking today, Bob. Spring cocktail number 3.
All right. Well, I know we got a few things to go over before we get into our kind of real segments. There was something that was really bugging you about last week's episode?
Oh, yeah. I've been thinking about this all week, Matthew, since I was listening back to the episode. I said Adam Hamari, and I know that the man pronounces his name like Hammer. Like Hammery. His name is Adam Hammery, not Hamari. And all I can think of is that I just thought maybe it's spelled like Campari. So maybe that's how it's pronounced. I don't know. And I don't even like Campari. I mean, I don't really like umpires that much either. Right? Like necessary evil, if you ask me. But yeah, that's been really bothering me. So I just wanted to let everybody know. I know it's pronounced Hammery, not Hamari.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for letting me get that off my chest.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, now that we've gotten that off our chest, what else do we got to talk about?
Oh, right. Oh, yes. Hey.
Yeah.
Give me a little tap. Just
where?
Just punch me right there on the side.
Right there on the side?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, that was a little. Okay. Yeah. Feels good though. Feels good.
Yeah, that did feel good. Wanted to do that for a long time.
Yeah. What do you mean? You used to do it all the time? Has it been a while?
It's been a while.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, point is, Matthew, that didn't hurt me as much because my oblique is all healed. I can take the garbage out again.
Oh, all right. Much like Elliot Ramos's oblique.
That's right. Elliot Ramos's oblique also healed up. He started to have at-bats. In fact, like, everybody was there. Like, they're all there. All the offensive players, anyway.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, Ben,
mm-hmm.
Pull my finger.
Oh, okay. Nice.
You're welcome.
Nice.
Actually, there's no numbness now.
Yeah, that didn't hurt at all. It didn't bother you?
No. I can pick my nose now. I can do whatever I want with that finger.
Just like Eric Miller.
Yes, he's back.
Yeah. Apparently, we weren't the only ones freaking out about the fact that his finger was numb. I heard them talking about it on the TV.
Okay.
They televised the game on Saturday, folks. If you didn't know.
I got to tell you, I actually missed it and had to watch it on repeat because I didn't even assume that it was on.
Yeah, why would you watch the game when you just assume that they're never on TV? Like I don't understand what was happening.
I mean, as podcasters, we probably should know these things, but I did not. I did.
I knew I was watching it, but anyway. They were talking about how some people might have been concerned, and that some people were like very concerned about the nerve, the fact that he was a numb finger. So we weren't the only ones.
Okay.
We weren't the only ones.
Yeah, they're trying to downplay it, but I know you got to be a little freaking out when you got numb fingers, man.
I would not be excited to go tell the trainer my finger's a little numb.
Yeah.
No, that's not a thing I would be excited to talk about. Yeah. But anyway, that's the injury report.
Yeah. Well, okay. And then one thing before we get into the other stuff, one of my favorite parts about spring training, Ben, is every year you start to hear about or you see players that maybe you've never heard of before. And some of them, start playing quite well or have an impact on games, and that's fun. I like seeing like some of these kids from the minor league camp who are playing, especially when you got the split games and two games in one day, and you're definitely going to see a lot of minor leaguers, and so a couple guys that have kind of stood out to me, including a kid named Bo Davidson. He's an outfielder. He's 22 years old. There was actually a really good article written on him. I think it was on MLB.com, where he gave up baseball while he was in college. Actually, for a couple years, he wasn't playing, and then started playing again for a community college in North Carolina. That's actually in the same town that Madison Bumgarner's high school was in.
Oh,
and the Giants found him and signed him in 2023, and then he did really well in rookie ball. And but he injured himself a little bit, so they decided to send him to the Arizona Fall League. And what's exciting about him is that he has one of the balls he hit in the Arizona Fall League was 111.7 miles per hour exit velocity. And I think only like Matt Chapman and Jorge Soler last year hit a ball that hard. And his bat speed is 78.9 miles per hour, and anything over 75 is considered fast. So he's got some tools, and it's kind of fun. And he's hit the ball hard. He's only had a few at bats, but he's hit the ball hard both times. Got a couple doubles, so that's fun to see someone like him. And then a guy I think we mentioned quickly in the beginning, like we just as a joke, was Sabin Ceballos. And,
yes, number 88.
Yes. Not the only 88 though.
That's right. Same number as Bryce Eldridge. Well, they're 88 still in camp. Please stand up. Oh, look, it's Sabin.
Sabin, who's a third baseman, also 22 years old. Last year, he split his time, ended his season in Eugene, High A, and had a really nice run there. Last 32 games, he hit 295 with a 364 on base and a 549 slugging. He had 7 home runs in 121 at-bats. So, there's some kids out there, Ben, that maybe we'll see in the next year or two. So that's kind of fun to see when they first start popping up on the scene in spring training.
Yeah, and Sabin he's hitting 571 so far in camp with a 1,700 OPS.
Yeah, exactly. He's doing really well. So it's kind of fun to see these guys. So
yeah,
anyway,
I mean, that's 4 for 7.
Well, but still, I know, small sample size, but
very small sample size.
But you know what? It helps when the major league staff sees a guy like that playing well. I think it can't hurt, and I think it's fun to see them doing well. So that's all. I just wanted to bring it up. Yeah, and I'm optimistic, Ben. So that's I'm optimistic about our future with guys like that. Unlike your man who got demoted.
Okay. Yeah. We got, I mean, that's a good segue into our first topic of the day, which is talking about the doses of reality that we got this week in spring training. And it looks like that Bryce Eldridge is not going to start the season in San Francisco.
Well, it'll be hard if he's demoted to the minor leagues, Ben.
Yeah, well, I mean, it happens. It happens, right? He could be tearing it up in there, and they could invite him back, and then they could just never send him back down. It could happen. It's not going to, but it could. But the point is, it also limits his chances for being Rookie of the Year / MVP. and celebrating his 21st birthday during the Giants' playoff run next October.
Yeah,
and
it does.
And now everybody's like, all it takes is 8 strikeouts, and everybody's like, well, we'll see you when you're 22, kid. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this is meaningless, right? Like, a 20-year-old player who has a really, really high ceiling might need another 2 years to bake, right?
Yeah.
And if he comes up when he's 22 or 23, doesn't mean that he's not going to have a great career. So, I mean, it's disappointing, right? I think as fans, we all want that great prospect that becomes that great player, but a lot of times those are once in a generation players, and so they just don't happen all of the time. And quite frankly, I think maybe you might see it only one time, and we saw it with Buster Posey. Maybe that was our one time.
Yeah.
But anyway, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that Bryce Eldridge isn't going to be a good player. But it did bring up for me a couple of questions about Bryce Eldridge in general. And so my first question was this the plan all along? Like, was this the plan to just have him come up and be invited to the big league camp, get all the fans excited, and then not play him? Was that the plan?
I think it was. Yes, I think it was the plan. They had no intention of ever having him being on the opening day roster. And Aaron Judge is another giant guy, right? Tall guy. Aaron Judge did not make his major league debut until he was 24 years, 109 days old. All right. So Aaron Judge was 4 years older than Bryce Eldridge is right now when he made his major league debut. So I don't think that we can just expect Bryce Eldridge to all of a sudden be the player that maybe he could be. And he could be an Aaron Judge type player. So I think that was the plan all along. He doesn't know how to play first base. He's still learning that. There's no reason to rush. They got guys that, could fill the first base spot. And so, yeah, they're going to wait. Why do you have a problem with that, Ben?
I don't. But I don't. I mean, I honestly think that could have been the plan. I mean, the plan could have been like, hey, we don't really care how the fans and the media react to this. Like, it's something that he's going to have to get used to as being our top prospect. So that is what it is. But like, we want to get him the experience of being part of the big league club. So let's invite him to camp. And I think you're right. Maybe the plan was all along to not play him a lot, right? Especially when you're not concerned about rushing him, right? When you're not trying to rush him. Having him come off to a slow start and ease into things in spring is not a big concern for you if you're fully expecting him to start the season in the minors. And then, of course, you see him strike out 8 times in a row, and then probably you do start to panic a little bit because you're like, okay, we don't want this to turn into a disaster, so let's pull the plug on this and then move him down. So honestly, I agree with you. I think that could have been the plan. I think, and in fact, it probably indicates that was the plan, and you're right. Like, I think a lot of Giants fans wanted him to be able to, like, win a job, right? Well, he can't win a job if he's not getting a lot of opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, what would he have needed to win, to get more at-bats? He would have needed more big hits. And that's hard to do when you're getting 1 at-bat a game, right? Like, I don't think... Like, the big problem here was 8 strikeouts and 9 plate appearances.
Right.
That was the big problem. But even if he had not had 8 strikeouts, let's say he had 4 strikeouts, but only 1 other hit, that's not great either, right? And that's not going to win you a job, and it's not going to win you more plate appearances. So I don't think that's what the Giants were really ever expecting or trying to achieve. So I think it's pretty evident that, yeah, they are taking it slow with him, and they are being careful. And I think that's fine. I mean, I think I said a couple episodes, I talked about, like, how, at what age good hitters tend to appear in the major leagues. And I don't know that if I made this clear enough, but my point was, like, they are called up at the age that they're called up because they are good. They are good enough to play at that point. It's not because they were called up early that they became good, right? That's not the reason that they became good. Yeah. They were called up because they were good. And it takes as long as it takes for a player to reach that level. And for some of them, it's 24. And the point is also, like, only 10% of those guys showed up when they were 19 or 20 years old. The overwhelming majority of them showed up when they were 24 or younger, and most of them showed up when they were 23 and younger. So that's 3 years away for Bryce Eldridge, or 4. So not a lot to worry about, not even really a lot to be disappointed about, but it does just mean that we got to wait longer, and it just feels like we've been waiting a long time. But I have this question for you, Matthew.
Okay.
Where should Bryce Eldridge start the season? Should it be a AA or AAA, or do you just not care?
Well, it was funny as you were asking me that I didn't know there was going to be a third option because my initial reaction was I really don't care. I don't think it really matters where he's going to start out. It's more where he ends up and how he plays. And I know there's talk about him going back to, what is it, Virginia?
Yeah, everybody keeps saying, like, everybody keeps making a really big deal that it's close to home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, maybe he's going to be living in an apartment at a baseball park. I don't think that's going to make a huge difference.
Well, maybe he wants his family to come see him. Maybe that will help. I don't know. But, and if he starts out in AA, I wouldn't, if he plays well, I wouldn't expect him to be there long. Maybe a month, But wherever he ends up, it's going to be fine. I don't really have any really strong thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should just go wherever he's going to be able to get the most quality at bats and the quality work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The best coaching that he can get at first base, and then just where he can face the best pitching that is appropriate for his current level. The only thing that makes me, and we haven't talked about this at all, and I don't know, the only thing that's curious to me about this, and it's kind of a random outside thing, but it's just like, I wonder how comfortable Sacramento is going to be this year. Like, are the River Cats sharing a clubhouse with the A's? Like, I don't even know how that's all working.
No, I think they're building some major league clubhouses out beyond center field.
Okay. So the River Cats is their facility their place will stay the same.
Yeah.
Because I do know that it was like, I think Landon Roupp, or maybe it was in Birdsong, one of them in last September was like working out, and then construction workers just started like breaking down a wall while he was in the weight room.
I didn't hear that. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad. The union had to be contacted, you know? It was just like, this is the kind of crap that I think is going to be going on in Sacramento. So, I mean, that's kind of like a random outside thing, but like maybe we want Bryce in AA just for that reason alone.
Well, I know at FanFest just a month ago or so, it didn't look like they were as far along as they would have liked to have been. So, who knows how that's all going to play out.
I'm worried about that, actually. I'm worried about the state of things in Sacramento for the River Cats because how that might impact the Giants. Like, I don't give one iota. I don't care at all. I don't give one rat's hairy behind about the A's, right? Like, I don't care about those guys at all. But if this has a negative impact on the San Francisco Giants, like, I hate it. I hate it. Like I don't care if you need to go play at a high school field in Las Vegas. Just get out of our way already. Mm-hmm. Losers.
Well, I know you're talking about at-bats and Eldridge not getting any, but you know who you should be jealous of, Ben?
Who's that?
David VR. David VR has 19 at-bats this spring.
Yeah, that's interesting, right?
I thought so. I mean, it's kind of weird that a guy that is out of options, that really has no visible path to the majors with the Giants, is getting all these at-bats.
This is a guy who is not going to be a San Francisco Giant. He's not going to be in the organization unless he gets outrighted at the end of the season, at the end of spring training, because nobody wants him. And if that was the case, why are you giving him so many at-bats? And why, the question I have is, why didn't some of those early at-bats go to Bryce Eldridge?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, different positions, but I think
they're both first basemen.
I don't know. They have David VR listed as like a second/third baseman.
He is not a second baseman. He's a third baseman. He's a corner infielder. The rest of that is just garbage.
Yeah,
you're not going to have David VR playing middle infield. He and Bryce Eldridge are in the same territory. But, the question really does remain, and I think the reason you didn't give those to Bryce Eldridge is because that wasn't the plan for Bryce Eldridge. But it does bring up an interesting point. David VR is playing a lot, and he is not going to be on the 26-man roster. And he is most likely not going to be in the Giants organization. Why are they giving him so many at-bats? Is it because they're dumb? Or is it because that's my thesis? They're dumb.
They're not dumb. I mean, my original thought was maybe they're trying to give him an opportunity to showcase himself to the other 30, the other teams. Because I mean, they know he's not going to be on there. Maybe there's some trade. It'll drum up trade interest. Or at the very least,
for trade interest,
or at the very least, show off some, show him off to other teams who might be looking for somebody, to fill that role.
I don't think they're dumb. No, I think that's exactly what they're doing. I think this is a sign of the Giants being a different organization under Buster Posey. I think this is the Giants being the nicer, kinder Giants. He is not a commodity to be used and abused. Yeah. He is a guy that they're letting showcase his skills so that he can catch on with a different team when he doesn't make the team. Because the only way he makes a team is if Wilmer Flores gets hurt. And even if Wilmer does get hurt, that's not a guarantee that you would go with him, right? Because Gerard Encarnacion could fill that spot, and then you could fill Gerard's spot with an outfielder.
Yeah.
So I think the only
you got Jake Lamb too, so don't forget about that.
Right. Well, I mean, Yeah. Yeah. And when you got Jake Lamb, why do you need David Villar? I mean, they do bat from different sides of the plate. I will point that out.
Oh, that's true.
But, I mean, I think this is the Giants treating a player who's been part of their organization for a long time with respect and giving him the opportunity to showcase his skills. This is the opposite of what we saw with Thairo Estrada and J.D. Davis.
Right.
And because it just doesn't otherwise make sense that David Villar would be getting so many at-bats, right? Because he's either going to be off the 40-man roster and in Sacramento, or he's going to be playing for another major league team come opening day. Just otherwise, if David Villar makes the team, that means Wilmer got hurt or Matt Chapman got hurt.
Yeah. You don't want him making the team.
No, we do not want David Villar making the team. And so, I mean, maybe some people might be saying, oh, he's better than Wilmer, but, and maybe you're right.
No, they're not. They're wrong.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disparage it. All right. Well, that's enough about Bryce Eldridge and the satellite question of David Villar. Matthew, it's time to get down to it.
It is.
It's time to talk about the day that Landon Roupp had today as we record this podcast.
'Tis a flesh wound.
I mean, do you disagree that everybody had pretty much given him the job? And by everybody, I mean Grant Brisbee, I mean Andrew Baggerly, I mean Pavlov, I mean all of the writers.
You mean Matthew Henry? Yeah.
Yes, and you. Yeah, yes. All of them and you had basically given Landon Roupp the job, right?
Well, he's been having a really good spring, so yes. I mean, there was reason to have that optimism.
And then isn't it interesting, right after everybody has all that optimism, he comes out and pitches 3 2/3, giving up 7 hits and 5 earnings.
And it wasn't even consecutive 3 2/3. He had
to come out. They had the whole
collect
spring
himself
training thing.
And then come back out.
He got the Kyle Harrison treatment. That's what happened to Kyle in his last start. Yeah.
Well, I think Hicks had that too. He's not the only one. Hicks also had a really bad outing.
Right.
So you chalk it up to, now if he continues to have outings like that, then of course you should be concerned and maybe he wouldn't earn the 5th spot. I don't know if one bad outing is enough to discourage it. I think I think the jury is still out. And of course no one's anointing him the 5th starter, but I think that if that becomes a blip, and he continues to pitch well in spring, then sure, he's got every opportunity to still win this spot. I don't think today just discounted him from winning that.
I think he was the front runner. I really do. I think he should be, right? You were right.
Pitching,
he should have been, right? Everybody wants to give Kyle his pedigree, and you know what? Honestly, I hate that. I hate it when you give people things for their pedigree.
Well, your pedigree is pitching 92 at the high on your fastball. That's
well, his pedigree is throwing 96, right? And now he's throwing 92. Yeah. 92 on one pitch in his last outing, right? Every other pitch after that was 91 or less. That's where Kyle Harrison is right now. So I think that the job was Landon Roupp's, right? Given the track record, and it's not just from spring; it's from August and September as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
The pitchers that we have seen since August 1st of last year tells you that Landon Roupp should be the guy. Until today.
Okay. All right. But I have this fantasy, Ben. Okay. That he's a starter in the Giants rotation. He becomes a fixture like Logan Webb.
Sure.
All right. And then every time he strikes out a batter, you know how the 49ers, whenever Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback of the 49ers, catches a pass, all the fans yell, Juice.
I'm familiar of the Harvard guy who plays for the Dirty Miners. Yes.
Okay. All right. Got a very talented wife who makes really great jackets and stuff. Yeah. Him.
I have no idea what you're talking about with that, but okay. Don't explain it to me. Don't explain it to me.
All right. Anyway, I feel like we could get to the point with Roupp, Landon Roupp, to be every time he strikes out a player, that all the fans respond by going Roupp.
Okay. Roupp.
And then on the broadcast, they always have to explain out of turn.
Right. They're not booing. They're not booing. They're saying Roupp. Right.
Yeah.
Well, the Giants broadcasters wouldn't do that because they know that their listeners and viewers are intelligent. But the
Yeah, it's
national
just, you know,
broadcasters,
the national broadcast. Yes,
every time
exactly.
Joe Davis had to deign to broadcast a Giants game, he would have to explain to all the stupid Dodger fans that happened to be watching that game that they
Exactly.
weren't booing their own guy for striking out.
That's right.
Not that any Dodger fan. Not that Dodger fans know what a strikeout is. But anyway, well, you know what? Here's the thing, Matthew. You could get the same thing with Hayden Birdsong,
You can.
right? Like, yeah, every time Hayden Birdsong strikes somebody out, the whole stadium could do a bird song.
Oh.
You know, it's like
Like a little
boom,
tweet?
strike
Like a
three,
little
punch
Robin
out, call
action?
it. Yeah, and then we all just stand up and we're all like, caw, 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 caw. And we're doing like the beak things like they do with sharks.
Yes,
the
people
sharks in,
showing
but-
up with like
but not with their
like-
elbows. We're
like
doing it with full-
beaks,
yeah.
hats.
Yeah.
Yes, like bird hats. Like, you know,
Yeah,
going back from the
yeah. Every
panda.
time Hayden
No more
Birdsong
pandas in the. It would just be birds on the top of your head.
That's right. And we're all yelling, caw, caw. That's our bird
I
song.
could actually get behind that, Ben. I could.
That's how birds sing, right?
Sure. That's how some birds sing.
Caw.
Caw.
Well, that sounds pretty good to me. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, I think we can't lose with either of those players, Ben. I think that's
That's right. That's right.
that pretty
We've
much,
got great fan interactions to do with both of them.
That's right. And if it becomes a fixture, we're taking credit for it.
I mean, what has Kyle got? I don't know. I can't think of anything. Kyle,
I can't think of anything either.
way to go, Kyle! Yay, Kyle!
Yay, Kyle. Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, I don't got it. Yeah. All right. Well.
All right, Ben. So, my role over the years on this podcast has been to be the optimist in our family and in our podcast. And so, in the spring, there's no better time to be optimistic. And sometimes you have to like feign optimism because there's really not a whole lot of things to be optimistic about, but not this spring. Ben, there are a lot of things to be optimistic about. Did you know, Ben, that the Giants actually lead the spring training in home runs?
Whoa, is that all of spring training?
All of spring training.
What? No.
And not only that, they're top 6 in average, on base percentage, slugging, OPS. I mean, this is like, I mean, an offensive awakening. Like, we've got guys that are actually hitting the ball hard.
You know what? I know it's your job to be the optimist, and it's my job to be, some people might say pessimist. Some people might say curmudgeon, crank, cantankerous. But I like to say realist. And you know what? It's hard when it comes down to realism, dude. It's hard to argue. Like, this offense right now is looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good.
It is.
I'm not gonna lie.
And here's what makes me even more optimistic about this. It's not all Sabine Ceballos, okay? I mean, it is
4 for 7 to Bean Ceballos.
right. I mean, our regulars are actually playing well. You know,
Yeah.
like Matt Chapman, Jung-Hoo Lee, Willie Adames, Gerard Encarnacion, even Luis Matos. I mean, you look up and down, guys that you're expecting to be on the opening day roster are all playing well.
This is our regular guys who are playing early in the game against other regular major leaguers, performing well and showing what the upside of this team looks like. Yeah, I mean, we do have a few rando guys in there. Like Sabine Ceballos does have a home run. I don't think Sabine is going to get a lot of at bats this year in San Francisco.
No. But, you know, Yastrzemski, you know, has had 3 home runs this spring. He's looking really good. Even like Lamont Wade Jr., who's batting like $180, his on base is like 460. You know?
Yeah, seriously. He's only he must have only 1 hit, and it must be a home run.
Yes, because his slugging percentage is really high too. Yeah.
He's got 1 home run, 1,000 walks, and that's it. Yeah, and that's why he's going to win MVP. Heard it here first. Wow, spring cocktail number 3, Matthew.
Yes.
Spring cocktail number 3.
Yeah, there's 15 minutes left to go on our podcast. Yeah.
Well, I made a double, and I'm on number 2. You know what? It's not as bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, not as bad the second time around, I'm sure.
True. True. It doesn't work. It does its work. But no, I totally agree. I totally agree. And was really exciting about this past week is that we saw the lineup. And I don't remember who it was. I read an article or I heard somebody talking about it, but like Bob Melvin was like a giddy little school kid when he was like, wait till you guys see the lineup. This is what he said to the press. Wait till you see the lineup today. And it's because Elliott was finally healthy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like right now, knock on wood, everybody who should be on the 26th man is healthy. I mean, old Tom notwithstanding, is supposed to be healthy. And so that allowed him to put out what everybody thinks is the lineup. Right? Is the opening day lineup.
Right.
And I feel like he's already told us, like, if everybody's healthy, this is what the lineup is going to be. We're supposed to guess what these are later on, but I don't feel like there's going to be much of a guess because I think he showed it to us. And then they went off and had a great day, and I got to tell you that lineup looks really good. That lineup looks really good, and it also has a lot of flexibility and versatility in it. I think there's a lot of reasons to believe that this offense is not going to be as anemic, and I don't know that people thought it was going to be anemic, but it's going to do a much better job at scoring runs than it did last year. And since we're on the path of being optimists, maybe this whole new approach from the San Francisco Giants way is going to be a little bit more focused on having quality at-bats that are, more importantly, situational at-bats. Because I feel like that's been something that has just gone away from the Giants. Right? I know when Kapler was the manager, that was definitely not a thing that he cared about. Like, there was no such thing as a situation.
Right.
Right? It was like, wait for your pitch and hit it. The situation be damned. And I think that has shifted. Right? Not just within the organization. I think that's shifting in baseball. But, like, players should be more aware that there's runners on base, and then hopefully that will lead to more runners being batted in than there were last year. Which I don't know if you remember, Matthew. There weren't a lot.
No, there weren't. And that's what Buster wanted, right? Buster wanted guys that could drive in runs, and it seems like the mentality is played over into spring. So I'm liking it. So that's a reason to be optimistic.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it's a small sample size, but it's all of the right guys having those results. And it's results that we've seen most of them have before. Right? It's just they're all healthy, and now they're all on the team at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. So we're getting close to running out of time here, but there's one other reason to be optimistic. And it really could be the strength of this team is the pitching staff. And Ben, they're throwing strikes. Remember last week we talked about like the winner of each guy who threw the most strikes that day got his face up on the TV and he got some golf balls and a Starbucks gift card or something.
Yes, I do remember the $10,000 Starbucks card. That's where all of the Taylor Rogers money went.
Exactly. Yes. And but it's working. Okay,
it's working.
The Giants are like first in all of majors for the spring for throwing strikes. Okay. They're first in walks allowed. They've only allowed 36 walks this spring. The next closest is 52.
Okay, that's a big deal.
Yeah. So and they lead the Cactus. Well, they actually lead all of spring training in WHIP, and they're fourth in ERA. I know it's an old school, but Bob.
ERA is not as bad as batting average. It's a decent stat. I like the walks is no joke, and neither is the strikes. The ERA, we got a lot of scrubs playing the back half of these games.
Yeah.
And so the ERA does not, like, I don't put a lot of credit into that, right? Like, because you got a lot of like young players playing that part of the game, and you have a lot of runs being scored. So I don't know that ERA. I did find it interesting that Bob Melvin was very excited about that when they talked to him about it on Saturday, because I was like, Bob, why are you so excited about a stat in spring training, especially that stat? But hey, he's almost as old as I am, so. Oh, no, wait, he's older.
Yeah, he's older.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's my point, right? Is the pitching staff is actually performing as well. So not only do you have this offensive kind of team that is doing well offensively, but you've got guys that are throwing strikes. I also saw on, I think it was MLB.com, there was an article about the 15 pitchers who have a new pitch that's like that we've noticed or something like that. And Robbie Ray's changeup was one of them.
All right, which you told us about.
Yeah, right. And then, Eric Miller, I think, is adding a split finger or a sinker onto his repertoire. And, guys are showing out. And so, I think that the pitching is as good as we think it could be. Then this could be a good team. And I'm feeling optimistic about it, Ben.
All right. Well, you should be. Because that's your job. And now I'm going to rain on your parade. Because that's my job.
Yeah. All right.
Somebody in the show notes put here that I'm supposed to give you my Oscar the Grouch impersonation.
Yes.
All right.
Because that's who you are.
Okay. So listen up here. No, it's a little too nasally. Listen up here. I'm going to drop some knowledge on you.
Is that Oscar the Grouch?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. He's got this high-pitched voice. What does he say? He's like, he's not deep. He's got this nasally.
No, he's got this gross, gravelly voice.
Well, it's gravelly, but it's nasally. It's kind of high-pitched.
I don't think it's high-pitched.
Okay, you better go listen to it right now. Right. And if you all agree with Matthew, you better go to YouTube. I was just now listening to the video Sesame Street, Oscar's cell phone. Listen to that one and tell me it isn't high-pitched. I mean, I'm not talking Elmo here. It's Oscar, but it's high-pitched. But anyway, I'm gonna drop some knowledge on everybody, just to remind everybody, because yes, things do look really good. There are lots of reasons to be optimistic, and quite frankly, the starting rotation looks good, and I know we've got some oldies in there, right? We got some oldies. We got Verlander. We got Robbie Ray, who's not as old as Verlander, but he's coming off some injury, history. But man, the pitching depth looks really good, right? Like, we know that Landon Roupp, Kyle Harrison, and Hayden Birdsong, one of those guys is going to be the fifth starter. The other two are just going to be like twiddling their thumbs, right?
Yes.
That's two other guys who could be in your rotation. Not to mention a bunch of young guys coming up behind them. Our bullpen looks great. We have our left-hander, thankfully. So and a lot of pitching depth that could slot into the bullpen or the starting rotation. But here's the thing, folks. I did a little bit of number crunching, and I learned that the average baseball team last year had slightly over 6,000 plate appearances, which roughly equals about 600 plate appearances for 10 guys. Right? I think if there's 13 guys, it's like 450 plate appearances per guy. Matthew, how many San Francisco Giants had more than 600 plate appearances last year?
Knowing the Giants like I do, I'm going to guess one.
You are correct. I will give you zero credit for guessing who did it.
Matt Chapman.
Yeah, because that's the obvious answer, and that is the right
answer. He's the only guy
answer.
that played all the games.
Man, that guy's good. But anyway, my point is that the Giants and every other baseball team rely not just on their 9 best guys and not even their 13 best guys, but on average, 26 position players will have significant playing time, or at least will have some playing time for your team. So that means your organizational depth really, really matters. And I got to tell you, Matthew, I look around the team and I'm like, I don't see a lot of organizational depth. And I am particularly concerned about our corner infield, not to mention catcher. These guys on the 40 man, in the 40 man, and even guys on the fringe, they really, really matter. And they're going to have a lot more at bats than you would think. And I don't know where those at-bats are going to come from because I just don't see a lot of depth. I mean, our first basemen are Lamont Wade Jr. and Wilmer Flores. I love them both.
They Lamont's got to bat, 400 times, and
Wilmer's got to bat.
Times.
Well, the 600 at-bats, by the way, doesn't get you to 162 games. By the way, it doesn't. It gets you to like 142 games. So that's 20 games that are missing. So if you get 150 from Wilmer and 450 from Lamont Wade Jr., you still need another, 80 games, 80 at plate appearances. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but organizational depth really does matter. And I don't know that we have it, especially at some of these positions like first base. So there's my Oscar the Grouch for you. You're welcome. I'm really enjoying this cocktail, by the way.
All right, Oscar. Well, okay. So now, folks, you've got a little balance there between my optimism and Ben's what he calls realism. The funny thing is that baseball, there is no logic to baseball, and you can't predict it. And so I'm choosing to be optimistic because the alternative is being you, Ben. And, frankly, that saddens me. So I'm going to just be optimistic as long as I possibly can.
All right. If that's how, okay.
Okay. All right. I think it's time to answer the trivia question.
I think it is time. Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. So the trivia question was, since 2011, which is the year, those of you who know, right? That's when Buster Posey became the full-time starter, a catcher. Who is the only catcher to start on opening day that was not drafted by the Giants?
Brett Wisely.
Ben, you said Brett Wisely.
Former Banana Savannah, Brett Wisely.
Who has never played a game at catcher.
That seems ridiculous.
The answer was Tyler Heineman.
What?
Who was the opening day catcher in 2020, our COVID-shortened season.
You said Jamie Heineman, the Mythbusters guy?
His brother, Tyler.
Oh, Tyler. Oh, that's right, because everybody on the Giants is either named Tyler or Carson.
Yes,
that's
or
right.
Landon.
Or Landon.
I don't know. Anyway, yes, so Tyler Heineman, the Tyler Heineman, who is, I think, still playing.
Is he? For who?
Yeah. He
the
is
Savannah
playing
Bananas.
For the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, that's what I said. The Savannah Bananas.
Tyler Heineman was the only other catch. So the catchers, there were 4 catchers that have started since 2011.
I'm pretty sure
Buster
you just
Posey,
made that up. Folks, I'm
Buster
pretty sure
Posey,
Matthew just made that up.
Tyler Heineman.
He's not a real
Joey
person.
Bart,
That's not a real person.
Joey Bart, and then Patrick Bailey. So four players have started on opening day for catcher, and I just thought Tyler Heineman. That's just one of these is not like the other, and that is Tyler Heineman. All right, Ben. That's all we have time for today. Folks, thanks for listening. If you want to follow us on the socials, you can do that at Giant Cocktails on Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, and yes, the platform formerly known as Twitter. You can also leave comments on Spotify as well as YouTube. And we'd like for you to leave us a rating if you like what you're hearing. Do that on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really does help the show. Ben, it's been good chatting with you. Looking forward to doing it again next week. Until next time, cheers, my friend.
Cheers, Matthew. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Giant Cocktails Podcast. Until next time, bottoms up.
I used to have these bad dreams when I was a kid, and they were that I couldn't open my eyes while I was running. It was a recurring dream. It was like a recurring nightmare. I'd be sprinting. I'd be running. And I'd be in a race. Like, I'd be like a cross-country race or a track race. And my eyes would be closed and I couldn't open them. And I would be trying really hard. But I would be trying to work. Okay, so as I got older, the nightmare of that turned into being the same thing, but it changed because I didn't run anymore. It changed to when I was driving. So suddenly I'd be driving a car, but I couldn't open my eyes. Right?
That's way more terrifying.
Yeah, no, way more terrifying, right? But it's interesting. It's weird. Right? It's like that's how the dream, same fear, but it's just shifted. And it's weird because like I don't have this fear when I'm awake. Like this isn't a thing that I fear. Okay. Well, on the opposite side, like I have these dreams of like where I'm super powered. And I don't remember where I was going with this.
You have a dream that you have superpowers?
Well, yeah. Sometimes I have a dream that I have the opposite of the nightmare, and I don't remember where I was going with that. You said there was something about Tyler Heineman and like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know where you're going with it either, but okay. I'm gonna put this back into the.
Sweet. Yeah, just put my. You know what? It's because I'm intoxicated, not because I'm old. Okay.
Well, that's true. Okay.
It's the booze, not the age.
All right. If that makes you feel better.
It does. It does make me feel better.